Chad from Jacksonville, Florida, next up. Chad asks, if Alabama loses 3 or more games this year, will they lose their automatic preseason top 3 ranking like they seem to be given every year on just name and recruiting class? Well, Chad, that's a pretty darn important name to be going off of. So I'm going to make some assumptions here, Chad. You're not here to represent yourself, so it's unfair, but I'm going to do it anyway. I almost get the sense that you think there's some favoritism shown to Alabama. I almost get the sense, call me crazy, I almost get the sense that you think they're given some unfair preferential treatment amongst the college football public and the media infrastructure that covers this sport. Am I right, Chad?
Yes.
Thank you, Chad. Well, Chad, I disagree. I agree that they're given preferential treatment. I just think they've earned every bit of it. And here's the thing, Chad, it would be very easy to disprove that because you are right. They start top 3 every year. A lot of times they're just number 1 every year. And it is because of people knowing how talented their roster is via recruiting. And it is because of what the name Alabama means. But what does the name Alabama mean? If you're talking about preseason polls, half of you think they shouldn't exist. So you guys just sit this one out. But for the rest of you who think they should exist, but Alabama somehow shouldn't always start near the top, well, what criteria would you rather go on? You obviously don't have any results for the upcoming season. So in lieu of results or having a crystal ball like Steve Wiltfong has, but for games instead of recruits, what would you go by, Chad? I feel a little aggressive here. Let me tone it down. Chadwick, what would you go by? I had producer Jesse compile me some notes. You know, it's going to shock you. Alabama has been a preseason top 3 since 2010, every single year. But you know what they've also done every single year? They've finished with double-digit wins. They finished outside the top 5 3 total times in that decade. They've come through every year, Chad. It'd be one thing if they were going 7-5 and then everybody was doing with Bama what they do with Texas. They just get amnesia during spring and summer, and then they print their magazines and they say, Alabama's back this year. They're not back. They never went anywhere. Also, they've got multiple national titles during this stretch. You've got a warped standard with Alabama. I try and explain this all the time to no avail. But with Alabama, people just judge Alabama against Alabama teams of the past. And that's not the way to do it. You judge Bama against the field that they're going to compete against. They may start doing this with Georgia. You know, if Georgia does not win a title this year or next year or the next year, but they're good every year, come 2026, Georgia will probably start top 3, and someone will say they're overrated, and someone will ask, how are they overrated? Well, this team right here wouldn't beat the 2021 team. Well, 2021 Georgia's not playing this year. Like, what sense does that make? And it's the same with Bama. Oh, these Bama teams are down relative to those teams Saban had in the mid-20 teens. Those were death squads. Yeah, so that 2020 team, best offense he's ever had. You don't have to measure up to those teams because they don't play this year. They will never take the field again, unfortunately. I'd love to watch it. But with Bama, they absolutely belong up there every year. Do you trust odds makers? Odds makers put them up there every year. I don't know what else we would go on, is what I'm saying. So if they were to lose 3 games this year, knowing what I know about the preseason rankings process, I actually think there are a lot of people out there who vote in the AP poll who would love to enjoy the novelty aspect of Bama not starting the season top 5. So I think the opposite, Chad. I think there are a lot of folks out there who would love any reason to cast that ballot and have Bama number 7. Even if they would not pick 6 other teams against Bama on a neutral field, they'd just love to do it because there's no consequence. It's a preseason AP poll. There's no consequence. I don't even fill mine out half the time. There's no consequence. And so if it's not serious, you can afford to do such things. But last year, I'll ask you this. They lost 2 games, right? Both of them were on the last plays of games. And so if I shift even one thing about either one of those, they probably go to the playoff. Who knows what they do. But the point is, they're coming off yet another year where they go to the playoff, or they go to the SEC championship game. Let me put it that way. Would we have a problem with this? Like, would we be viewing them as down? I don't think we would. It's always funny. The conversation around Alabama always gets so warped because some people hold them to a different standard than they do Washington. Or FSU. Take FSU. I firmly believe if you took the roster Alabama has this upcoming year and you put FSU jerseys on them, some people who are doubting Alabama would pick Florida State to win the national title. And it's not because it would be any different a team. Quite the opposite. Florida State would still be unproven. Bama's proven. It's just you get fatigue with a team once they win for a while, and you start holding them to a warped, different standard in your own mind.